Was smoking all my dragons, divine, righteous, almighty, great, overachieving, never slacking. I am back with another Thomas Sowell reaction. We got Thomas Sowell. Why they keep making black people look like losers, and I'm gonna go ahead and hop right into this. This will be in my history slash discussions playlist. Go ahead and binge watch that if you're new to the channel. With that being said, we're gonna hop right into it. Here we go.
It is a good reflection on Americans that they tend to be on the side of the underdog. But it is often hard to tell who is in fact the underdog, or why. Many years ago, there was a big, lumbering catcher named Ernie Lombardi, whose slowness of foot was legendary. Someone once said that not only was Ernie Lombardi the slowest man who ever played Major League Baseball, whoever was the second slowest was probably a lot faster runner than Ernie Lombardi. When Ernie Lombardi came to bat, infielders played back on the outfield grass. That gave them more range in getting to balls that Lombardi hit. They could snare line drives that would otherwise be base hits. With ground balls, they could easily throw to first base from the outfield grass and get the slow-moving Lombardi out. Despite all that, Ernie Lombardi had a lifetime batting average of .306 and even led the league in batting a couple of years. But many people said that if Lombardi had had just average speed, he could have been a .400 hitter. One day, as a teenager sitting in the Polo Grounds, the stadium where the then New York Giants played, I was privileged to watch a historic event. Ernie Lombardi laid down a bunt. The crowd went wild. The play took forever, with Lombardi laboriously clumping down to first base, running as hard as he could, but still not very fast, while the third baseman made a long run in from left field to get to the bunt. We cheered ourselves hoarse, rooting for Big Ernie as he doggedly but slowly made his way down the first baseline. He barely beat the throw, which set off another explosion of cheers. We were not just cheering for a hometown player. We were rooting for Lombardi to get revenge on those who had taken advantage of him for so long. We were cheering for the underdog. But was Lombardi really an underdog? How many players end up their careers with a lifetime batting average over .300 or with 2 batting titles? Like most of us, Lombardi was handicapped in some ways and privileged in others. Many people would consider it a handicap to be a black orphan born in the Jim Crow South during the Great Depression of the 1930s. But the home into which I was adopted had 4 adults, and I was the only child. Many years later, when I was a parent and asked one of the surviving members of that family how old I was when I started walking, she said, "Oh, Tommy, nobody knows when you could walk. Somebody was always carrying you." You can't buy that. A leading historian of education has said that the New York City public schools were the best in the country during the 1940s. That was when I went to school there. You can't buy that either. Today, the classes are smaller, the buildings more modern, but the education itself is a disaster. I got the kind of education that people have to go to expensive private schools to get today. Perhaps more important, nobody told me that I couldn't make it because I was poor and black, or that I ought to hate white people today because of what some other white people did to my ancestors in some other time. Nobody sugarcoated the facts of racial discrimination. But Professor Sterling Brown of Harvard University, who wrote with eloquent bitterness about racism, nevertheless said to me when I prepared to transfer to Harvard, "Don't come back here and tell me you didn't make it 'cause white folks were mean." He burned my bridges behind me, the way they used to do with armies going into battle, so that they had no place to retreat to, and so had to fight to win. One of the problems with trying to help underdogs, especially with government programs, is that they and everyone else start to think of them as underdogs, focusing on their problems rather than their opportunities. Thinking of themselves as underdogs can also dissipate their energies in resentment of others, rather than spending that energy making the most of their own possibilities. It must have been discouraging for Ernie Lombardi, especially in his early years, to be repeatedly thrown out at first base on balls that would have been base hits for anybody else. But he couldn't let himself dwell on that, not and win 2 batting titles.
Long story short, what he's saying is, first off, you can't. It really be all in the mind too. You cannot let things hold you back. You cannot make excuses all the time and pretty much create this wall of, oh, this is there for like you gotta break through that wall, right? Not build one. And I like how he said that. What was it? One of his teachers had pretty much knocked down anywhere for him to retreat, so he had no choice but to not make excuses, no choice but to win regardless. And yeah, I definitely like the message that he gives off, because when you see people, especially in that clip like Al Sharpton, I mean, we got a lot of clowns out here. You know, that's all I'm gonna say. A lot of clowns out here, and people need to turn that TV off and get to work, get to grinding. I know so many people who, uh, they live in certain areas, right? For example, if you live in a bad area, a crime-ridden area, um, why wouldn't you grind hard to get out to raise your kids somewhere else? Why wouldn't you go buy some land and grow food, or and really get your own? You rather stay in that environment where you you going through all these things and your kids got to go through all these things, and it's 10 times harder. But at the end of the day, you rather make. There's no point in making excuse. Oh, this environment, oh, they keep us down. Da, da, da. So why don't you be that person to be an example? Like if you was to switch your mindset like that, like, oh, we regardless, we're gonna make it. I'm gonna be that. I'm gonna win regardless. Instead of accepting those circumstances, right? Just because your elders may have failed you, or however you there, right? If you accept that reality, then that's what it's gonna be. But if you don't accept that reality and become that example, you can inspire others. But then the sad thing is it becomes more of a crab in a bucket kind of thing, where the ones that do go and maneuver like that, they got to deal with people wanting to pull them back down, and they got to deal with a lot of hatred from not just older people but younger people too. The younger ones who they may they may just not have the brain cells. And this is just honesty. A lot of people, some people just don't have the brain cells. Some people don't. My generation don't smoke so much stuff and did so much drugs that they really don't kill a lot of their brain cells. I ain't even gonna lie about that. Then you got a lot of older people who there's something, they're envious because they may not have conquered those things, and they so comfortable living a certain way so long that they don't want to see anybody break that cycle. So the best bet I could say is to get away and just do your own thing, right? As long as you know you gonna hit that home run, and you gonna make it to home base, and you gonna that's all that matters. Because once you do that, and then you deal with a woman who's on that same frequency, y'all have kids, y'all now started a nation. Y'all now have changed the game. But it's so easy for people to become victims up here. It's so easy for people to fall in love with misery and fall in love with excuses. It's like someone who has dyslexia and uses that as an excuse for everything. Oh, I have, oh, this, I can't, oh, I can't do that. I can't. No, and I'm saying that because I know people like that. It's like be stronger than that. Go harder. Sometimes your challenges may be harder than others, but that just means you got more to prove to yourself, right? That just means and when you do prove that, that show how much stronger you are. But people don't want to adopt those type of mentalities, man. They want to listen to the media. They want to listen to Al Sharpton. They want to listen to this. They want to listen to all these pimps around here. Um, and I get it. When some people go outside, it's ugly outside, but it's still your responsibility to change that environment, and to get you and pull yourself out of there. Many people have done it. Many people have done it, right? Then to make it worse, when you got so many people who do want to fall on that frequency, that low frequency, and they want to listen to the certain music, and everybody want to kill each other, and then it's like, what? It just doesn't make any sense. It just doesn't make any sense. So, um, yeah. At the end of the day, if you believe those lies so much, you will end up becoming a loser, 100%. So, with that being said, guys, that was Thomas Sowell. Why they keep making so-called black people look like losers. And with that being said, make sure you guys check out my history/discussions playlist. Let me know what you think in the comments, and I'll be back with more. If you want more videos like this, make sure you hit that like, that subscribe, that notification bell. Share this to somebody you think may need to hear this message, and I'll see you all soon. Much love, guys.